Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. For more than a month, mobs of violent, crazy people have roamed this country, terrorizing citizens and destroying things. No one has stopped them from doing that, so they've continued and they've become stronger. Politicians now cower before the mob. Corporate America mouths their slogans. The education cartel, enforced on your children, enforces their demands. Police officers, emasculated and restrained, watch it all from the sidelines, unable to help. For weeks we've asked, who will stand up for this country? And the answer we're learning is Americans. Americans will. It's up to them. Small groups of citizens are beginning to come forward to defend their laws, defend their history and their culture. Antifa does not own these things, neither does Black Lives Matter. They have no right to destroy them. In New York City over the weekend, a group of citizens gathered to defend a statue of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was the most popular president in the history of this nation. That's partly because he was a sterling moral example. Antifa wants him erased. Local officials have said they will comply with that demand. No one asked the public what the public thinks of this. Our leaders don't care what they think. This group decided to be heard.
We will see to it that you fall, and you fall so hard, you won't know what hit you.
Check your privilege and get back over there.
Yo, who are you talking to? Huh? You got something to say, little boy? You got something to say, little boy? No, you don't, do you?
No, just
Why
get back
don't
over
you?
there.
No, I'll stand wherever I want.
think you're bigots. You don't understand
Is
the
that the
Constitution.
best you got, darling
All men are
boy?
created
Is that the
equal.
best you got, baby boy? Is that the best you got?
That's the New York we love. Is that the best you got? Yes, actually, it is the best they've got. Tear off the masks, turn down the volume, and you see it very clearly. The mob is not fearsome, it's pathetic. These are pampered children play acting at revolution. They are cowards. That's why they move in packs. They have no skills. All they can do is destroy. The closer you get to them, the clearer all of that is.
They're trying to find this as a racial issue. This is not about race anymore. It never really was. This is about taking apart the fabric of America.
Well, exactly. This is not about racial justice. It never was about racial justice. That's obvious to the rest of us now. The president understands it too. Last week, he issued an executive order to protect our monuments from the mob. On Saturday, the Department of Justice charged 4 people with destruction of federal property for vandalizing monuments right across from the White House. Federal Park Police posted 15 wanted posters online. The president retweeted them. Oh, but the overpaid corporate revolutionaries on cable news were outraged by that. Enforcing the law? Enforcing the law is racist, they lectured us. MSNBC anchors enjoy seeing statues topple as they glide by in their car services. It makes them feel alive.
In another sign of where his priorities are during this time, the president signed a new executive order yesterday centered on protecting monuments, memorials, and statues, not people.
So he threatens prison terms. He threatens retribution. He defends statues. He ignores the substance of the message and wholly misses the mark.
President Trump signed an executive order about the protests, but not to protect people dying at the hands of the state. Instead, he signed an order that denounced protesters who vandalized Civil War monuments, protecting statues while real people suffer and some die.
They're such liars. Civil War monuments. They're taking down statues of Abraham Lincoln. But did you catch the last line? While real people suffer. Well, Patricia and Mark McCloskey are real people. They live in St. Louis. As their city degraded and fell apart around them, became dirty and dangerous over the last decades, they did not flee to the suburbs. Many of their neighbors did, but they stayed in their home. They've been in the same home for 32 years. They've rebuilt it entirely, slowly, painstakingly. They love it. On Sunday, the McCloskeys sat in their backyard together having dinner. Suddenly, as they ate, a mob of hundreds of screaming people destroyed a wrought iron gate with a no trespassing sign on it and came pouring in, moving toward them quickly. The McCloskeys were terrified. They'd watched as mobs looted and burned and assaulted citizens around the country. This mob was clearly intent on violence. They said so. When Mark McCloskey told them to leave, the mob threatened to murder him and his wife. Then they threatened to kill the family's dog. Panicked, the McCloskeys called the police. Then they called the neighborhood security patrol, but no one came. They had no choice to protect themselves. They went inside and got their, yes, legally registered firearms. It worked. Met finally by citizens who dared defend themselves, the mob retreated and melted away. But the terror did not end. The sight of ordinary Americans standing up for themselves and their home enraged our professional class, and they immediately put the McCloskeys' name and their home address all over the internet. Threats poured in. Mark McCloskey spent last night boarding up his office downtown. He had no choice. Still, no one stepped forward to protect the McCloskeys, not one person. Amazingly, Missouri has a Republican governor, a former sheriff called Mike Parson. But Governor Parson did not send state troopers to defend the McCloskeys from Antifa. Governor Parson didn't even call the McCloskeys. There's a lot he could have done. The governor could have announced that as long as he runs the state, no citizen will be prosecuted for exercising the most basic of all rights, the right of self-defense against the mob. But the governor didn't do that. In fact, he did nothing. And so, sensing they were completely undefended, the jackals descended on the McCloskeys. St. Louis's district attorney, a woman called Kim Gardner, announced that she was considering filing criminal charges against the McCloskeys for resisting the mob.